Dear friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we will journey together into one of the most sacred and heroic legends and the treasure of Vietnamese folk literature. The story of Thanh Giong, the warrior who rode an iron horse and rose to defend the land. This tale is not merely about a human with extraordinary strength. It is the anthem of an unbowed spirit, a testament to unshakable love for the homeland, and a portrait of the people's longing for peace. Now let us travel back to a time long ago, the age of the Hung Kings, when the land was known as Van Lang. In those days, the world seemed newly formed. Towering mountains, rivers that wound like ribbons, fertile fields carpeted in green. People of Van Lang lived simply, tending rice, weaving, and honoring the spirits who watched over harvests and household life. Yet from the north, a storm was brewing. News ran like smoke across the countryside. The invaders, a mighty force with glittering armor and a ravenous hunger for conquest, were marching down toward the border. The Hung King was deeply troubled. He summoned his ministers and generals to plan defenses, but no champion of sufficient power could be found within the capital. There remained no choice but to send royal envoys far and wide. A proclamation went forth on horseback. Whoever possesses the skill and bravery to repel the invaders, rise and save the country. Envoys rode over hills and through valleys, through forests and villages, calling for those who would answer the call. Yet for a time, hardly anyone dared take up the burden. It was during this search that the messenger came upon a small riverside village, Phu Dong, in the region known today as Bac Ninh. And there a strange destiny awaited. In Phu Dong lived an elderly woman, poor and humble, who labored in the fields day after day. She had no children and was known for her kindness. One morning, while the mist still lay low over the paddies, she discovered a gigantic footprint pressed into the muddy soil. The mark glowed faintly, as if it bore the breath of the divine. Curious, she placed her own foot into the hollow. From that moment, her life changed. Before long, she conceived, and the whole village murmured, some calling it a blessing from the heavens, others whispering in fearful wonder. When the child was born, he was handsome and healthy, yet for 3 full years he lay mute, motionless. He did not cry, did not laugh. He seemed a child apart, his gaze distant, as if it followed some horizon unseen. She tended him with boundless care, convinced in her heart that he was no ordinary child. Then one day the royal envoy came riding through the village again, proclaiming the king's decree in a voice that rolled over the roofs. The Hung King commands, any who can fight the invaders, rise and aid the nation. The proclamation echoed into the small house where the child lay. And something miraculous then occurred. The boy who had been silent for 3 years suddenly sat up. His eyes shone like flint, and his first words burst forth, clear, commanding, and strange to all who heard. "Mother," he cried, "call the king's envoy here now and let me speak." The mother stood stunned, her heart pounding with disbelief. She summoned the envoy, who came and knelt within their humble hut. The boy looked straight at him and declared in a tone far beyond his years, "Tell the Hung King that I asked to go to battle for our land, but I need an iron horse, iron armor, and an iron whip." The envoy stared, astonished. A child, hardly 3 years old, speaking such words of heroic resolve. Still, there was something in the boy's eyes that compelled belief. The envoy rode swiftly back to the palace and reported the wonder to the king. Hearing the account, the Hung King was at first incredulous. Yet pressed by the nation's peril and moved by the envoy's earnestness, he ordered the kingdom's finest blacksmiths to forge an iron horse, iron armor, and an iron whip without delay, and to send them to Phu Dong. What followed can only be called a miracle. The boy's appetite became prodigious. He ate and drank beyond all measure. The poor mother could not possibly feed him alone. The villagers, believing that the heavens had sent them a savior, pooled their grain and food to sustain him. Each day he grew with impossible speed. From a slight child he swelled into a youth of massive stature, first as tall as an ox, then as tall as a house, then towering above the village roofs. His voice became like a bell of iron, ringing across the fields. The mother watched with mingled fear and pride. The villagers watched with hope stirring in their chests. In their minds burned the conviction that a savior had been born among them, a champion whose arrival marked a turning point for the nation. When the iron horse, the iron whip, and the iron armor were finally forged, the royal envoy brought them to Giong's village. The giant boy looked at them, and with a mighty stretch, his body gleamed like bronze. His voice thundered like the storm. "Thank you, your majesty. Now let me go to battle." He put on the iron armor, grasped the iron whip, and leapt onto his horse. The steed neighed, shaking heaven and earth. From its nostrils burst blazing fire and clouds of smoke. The quiet countryside shone with the fiery light of war. Giong urged his horse northward, toward the land where the invaders were advancing. Every step of the horse stirred a whirlwind, and every strike of Giong's whip crashed down like lightning upon the enemy. The mighty army that had once terrified nations was now shattered by the power of a divine warrior. The An soldiers screamed and scattered. Some were trampled beneath the horse's hooves, others were burned by its fiery breath. The land trembled, the sky blazed red, the mountains quaked, and rivers rose in furious waves, as though all of nature joined the battle. Yet in the midst of the fierce fight, Giong's iron whip broke in half. Unshaken, he galloped to the forest's edge, uprooted clusters of yellow bamboo, and swung them as new weapons. Each lash of the bamboo roared through the wind, and every strike laid another battalion to dust. To this day, the land where those bamboos once grew remains covered with dense groves, known as Tre Fudong, the bamboo of Fudong, forever honoring the saint's victory. The battle raged for days and nights. When the dawn's first light broke through the clouds, Giong had crushed the An army, restoring peace to the kingdom. He turned his horse toward the horizon, gazing over the homeland he had saved, and his solemn voice echoed across the four corners of the land. The invaders are gone. Peace has returned. Now, I shall ascend to the heavens. With that, he spurred his horse up Mount Sok-sun. The iron steed neighed mightily. Flames burst high into the sky. Through the mist and smoke, the figure of the warrior slowly rose heavenward, wrapped in golden light. The radiance spread across the heavens, blessing the earth below with the glory of his spirit. From that day, strange marks appeared where Giong had departed. The horse's hoofprints turned into ponds, and the scorched earth still bears the black traces of fire even after centuries. People from all over gathered at Sok-sun to build a temple and worship him as Pudong Thien Vuong, the heavenly king of Fudong, a divine hero who defended his land and embodied the undying courage of the Vietnamese people. He became one of the Tu Bat Tu, the four immortals of Vietnam, alongside Tan Vien, Chu Dong Tu, and Liu Han. Each represents a sacred virtue: nature, love, compassion, and patriotism. And among them, Giong stands as the immortal symbol of strength, bravery, and the will to protect the homeland. Every year, on the 9th day of the 4th lunar month, the Giong festival is held with grandeur and pride. Drums thunder, flags dance in the wind, and the legendary battle is reenacted before thousands. People recite the saint's vow. The spirit of Giong lives forever in the hearts of the Vietnamese. His strength endures in every mountain and river of this land. Even the poor mother who once raised the divine child is remembered with devotion. The villagers built a shrine to honor her love and sacrifice, for it was her kindness, her patience, and her heart that brought forth a hero. And so, among the green fields of Pudong, the tale of Tan Giong lives on. The story of a boy who grew to be a divine warrior, who rode an iron horse, wielded bamboo against invaders, and ascended to the heavens, leaving behind an eternal flame of heroism in the soul of Vietnam. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. More myths, legends, and folktales from Vietnam and across Asia are waiting for you. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.